Now onto an economy, being that these are comics that predate, of course, 1980 at least, and they have a value of $300 or less before being CGC'd. Short invoice, only 11 titles. 3 of those were customers, and they've already picked those up. Out of the 11 titles, I ended up with two copies that ended up exactly as I expected to grade them. 8 copies came up at a better grade, so that accounts for 10 out of 11. And on the 11th one, I got a surprise on that one, and we'll see that at the end. First of all, the copies that came on exactly as I expected them to. Once again, another Schaumburg Standard, Neater, Better. This company is known by various names at various times. Here it was called Better. In the later incarnations, they had I believe, a little flag, and it said Standard, but it's also known as the 3 different things. It's all the same company: Standard, Neater, or Better. Here's a Schaumburg war cover again, a nice swastika. Nothing real racist about it, but a 1944 war cover. And as I said, the war covers he did for other companies such as Standard, or excuse me, Better, I guess they told him, unlike Martin Goodman and the people who were in the art, well, in command at Timely, Goodman just liked a lot of insane action, and this is certainly much nicer covers than the crazy, overpacked, Timely covers that Schaumburg did for Marvel Comics. 5th best CGC copy. There's only 4 copies better. It'll, good demand on it. It's going to get over guide. A very, very nice copy. It's not a bell ringer as far as high in the census, because there are plenty of 9.2s, maybe some 9.4s, 9.6s, and on. But a very, very nice Romita, early Romita Spider-Man cover. The Lizard, very, very popular. Nice yellow cover. Somebody's going to be very, very happy to get this 9.0 for somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 or more. Those are the books that were on. Now we have the majority of the books off of that invoice that actually came back at least a grade higher than I expected them to. A nice Batman 54 came back a little higher than I expected it to. And actually, even as a 6.0, surprisingly, this is the 17th best CGC copy of this book. There doesn't seem to be a lot of super copies in this. This is getting to be the end of the Golden Age in '49. Officially, the Golden Age probably stopped about 50 or so, and that's when crime comics and horror comics started to take over, and the superheroes, with the exception of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, being the 3 DC characters who had their own titles, and a couple other minor characters like Aquaman and Green Arrow, all of them just basically disappeared. The whole Timely line of superheroes folded, as did most other superhero comics. But Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, plus Green Arrow and Aquaman, did survive. And so, therefore, this is a time period when there were less superhero comics being sold. Another comic that we just pulled off of the wall, and we had it up for a 6.5. Somebody could have had it for a nice 6.5. Comes back from CGC, and it's a 7.0. One of the last issues. The last issue, like I said, is 46. Not a particularly gory, but somebody getting a free skydiving lesson there. So, always happy to get Spider-Man 129, first Punisher. Super surprise on this. I only expected this to get a 7.0, and it got an 8.5. So very happy with that. Somebody's going to be a proud owner of that. A very high demand book. It doesn't matter that there's hundreds or maybe 500 copies, maybe even 1,000 copies in 9.8. There are always people clamoring for this book, and we'll sell it easily for a good price. The price guide on this is over $500. We'll get a fair amount, probably more than that. Very nice book, 8.5. This book has gone nuts. It's not a bell ringer for sure, I only expected to get a 6 out of it, and it came back, what is that? How many grades higher? 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5. It came back 5 grades higher than I would have expected it to. This gives some credence to the idea that CGC sometimes grades super key issues or high demand issues or even older issues more leniently than they do common issues. I can't, for the love of me, figure out why I would grade this only, well, I graded it as a 6 plus, so I was thinking it might get a 6.5. But for them to have graded this 8.5, hey, I'm happy with it. And once again, I will run all the way to the bank with it, but I, as a strict grader, tend to wonder at times what's going on. It's a head scratcher for me. One last book on this invoice that I did not expect to get as high a grade on. I only expected to get an 8.0 on this, and it came back a 9.2. Not a key issue, but all issues of the Charlton comic, horror comic, The Thing, are kind of desirable. It was one of the better Charlton output. Charlton put out a lot of very bad comics. This is not one of them. This is one of their better comics. A nice kind of Steve Ditko-ish flair to it. Steve Ditko did a lot of work for Charlton, and in fact, I believe there is work by him in certain issues of The Thing, although there is none in this issue. Then, let's see, the last item on there, and this is the reason why, one of the best reasons for sending your books into CGC. Got a big surprise on this one. This was probably out of my collection. I probably had this in my collection for a long time. I bought a nicer copy recently, and I pulled out my old copy and stuck in the new copy. And I believe the new copy I got was a CGC book, and it might be a 6.0 or so. So I decided to send in, or at least we had it, I think we had this on the wall for a long time, and we had it listed as a 4.0. I didn't expect to get a 5.0 out of it. We did get a 5.0, but the thing I didn't expect was to get a qualified. The qualified was the fact that someone has cut out a ad page out of here, unbeknownst to us. They must have done a good job because we failed to see any nub. And unlike more modern comics where I can usually feel on a 32-page comic, if it's missing a page or a wraparound, I can usually feel the thinness of a book. On a Golden Age book, because of the thickness and because they varied in pages up and down a certain amount, especially during the war years, I'm not acquainted with it, and I'm not going to be able to feel that there's a single missing page out of here. It's a the nice thing was whatever they trimmed out of here was a non-story page, so the stories are still complete. But this is one of the good reasons why we need CGC and why they are a great value to us. This reminds me of a story involving Christie's auction house that involved Dan Greenlaw from Showcase New England, and I believe, and hopefully I'm not speaking bad of the dead, Jerry Weist, I believe, was involved, and I'm not sure there was somebody else involved. The Christie's auction house at one time had a copy of Action #1 that they were auctioning off. Dan Greenlaw and I think Jerry West and somebody else were their experts who examined the copies and graded the copies for them. They graded it, put it up for sale, and then later on, after they auctioned it, they found out that it was missing an interior page. So everybody can make a mistake at some time. Hopefully you don't make a mistake about an Action 1 like that. Definitely, this slipped by me. It slipped by my customers and everybody, and we didn't do a page count on this, and we should have. CGC did. They caught it. Thank you, CGC.